Other food safety hazards and their control. Allergens. A food allergy is an unnatural response to a food triggered by your body's immune system. Allergic reactions to food can sometimes cause severe illness and death. Around 10 people die annually in the United Kingdom from food-induced anaphylaxis. It is a severe and conceivably life-threatening allergic reaction, affecting more than one body system, such as the airways, heart, circulation, gut and skin. People experiencing severe reactions need emergency help from a trained paramedic, usually with injectable adrenaline. Symptoms can commence, and usually will progress rapidly, within seconds or minutes of exposure to the food you are allergic to. On rare occasions, there may be a delay in the onset of a few hours. All catering establishments are required by law to tell customers if their food contains ingredients known to trigger allergies. There are 14 different allergens that you need to be aware of. Cereals containing gluten, namely wheat such as spelt and Khorasan wheat, rye, barley, oats. Crustaceans, for example prawns, crabs, lobster, crayfish. Eggs. Fish. Peanuts. Soybeans. Milk including lactose. Nuts, namely almonds, hazelnuts, walnuts, cashews, pecan nuts, Brazil nuts, pistachio nuts, macadamia or Queensland nuts. Celery, including celeriac. Mustard. Sesame. Sulfur dioxide and sulfites were added and at a level above 10 mg per kilogram or 10 mg per liter in the finished product. This can be used as a preservative in dried fruit. Lupin, which includes lupin seeds and flour, and can be found in types of bread, pastries and pasta. Mollusks like mussels, whelks, oysters, snails and squid. The primary aim of the allergic customer is to avoid contact with the offending food allergens. Every effort must be performed to guarantee there is no cross-contamination with the food type to which they are allergic. If you work with the customer directly, make sure you know which courses contain allergens, and never guess. If you don't know, find out. An incorrect assumption could be lethal to the person consuming the meal, and even minute amounts can be severe. To prevent cross-contamination, wash your hands after handling allergens. Keep allergens separate from other foods, and guarantee that they are stored and packaged correctly. Use separate chopping boards, utensils and cleaning cloths when preparing allergen-free meals. Clearly identify any containers that are used or have been contaminated with allergens. Be cautious to clean all areas where allergens have been prepared thoroughly. Ensure that all items on the menu are clearly distinguished as containing any allergens. Chemical contamination inside the kitchen. Chemical contamination happens when food gets into contact with chemicals and can lead to chemical food poisoning. Some well-known origins of chemical contamination can include kitchen cleaning agents. Proper storing of kitchen cleaning chemicals is essential. Never keep food stocked in the same area as your cleaning chemicals, and always use cleaning products intended principally for kitchen usage. Chemical contamination inside the kitchen. Unwashed fruits and vegetables. The pesticides and fungicides frequently used on fruits and vegetables to help them develop free from diseases are harmful if consumed. Which is why it's essential to wash all fruits and vegetables before eating them. food containers made from non-safe plastics. Some plastic containers are not intended to be reused. Always store food in containers that are specially produced for reuse safely. The most significant risk of reusing plastic containers is bacterial contamination. Primarily if the container is intended for one-time use, it may not be designed for easy cleaning. Some contain plasticizers that could leach into food when the container is heated in the microwave or washed in the dishwasher. Some PET containers contain antimony, which has been linked to diarrhea, muscle and joint pain, anemia, and heart problems. Pest control products. Items like fly spray and rat poison are exceptionally hazardous if consumed. Always store these products away from food items. Chemicals used in equipment maintenance. Some kitchen implements with moving components, such as slicers and mixers, can require periodic oiling. Always use food-safe oil to help make sure this doesn't contaminate food. Physical contamination. Physical contamination occurs when objects contaminate foods. Sometimes when food is physically contaminated, it can also be biologically contaminated. The physical contamination might harbor dangerous bacteria. For example, a fingernail may be bearing bacteria. Well-known sources of physical contamination are hair. Always wear hair correctly tied back, and use a hairnet if feasible. Fingernails. Always keep nails short and clean to limit contamination. Also, avoid wearing artificial nails as these can fall off and may contaminate food. Jewelry. No jewelry should be worn during preparing and handling food. Glass or metal. This can happen when kitchen items are not maintained. Damaged or broken crockery and utensils should be thrown away, as well as any food that may have come into contact with it. Tiny parts such as screws, nuts and bolts from kitchen appliances. Pests, such as mice, rats and cockroaches, leave droppings that can contaminate food. Pests themselves such as flies and insects can also make their way into food. Plastic, paper packaging. Dirt. Because dirt is so small, it's easy not to see that it's contaminating your food. It regularly gets into the food from unwashed food and vegetables. It could also get into food from contaminated equipment. Cross-contamination. Cross-contamination happens when bacteria or pathogens carry from one object to another. It can occur in many various ways, and some of the more common sources of cross-contamination include clothing. Dirty clothes can carry bacteria from one area to another. You should further thoroughly wash your face and hands. It is particularly necessary when working with allergens or high-risk foods. Utensils. Separate utensils should always be utilized to prepare various types of foods. For instance, never use the same chopping board or knife to prepare raw meat and ready-to-eat foods. When handling foods, a requirement is it should be done safely, to limit harmful bacteria from one food, contaminating another food. The principal reason for this is usually because of cross-contamination, which occurs on a cutting board. A separate chopping board is required for each type of food that is handled. Raw meat cannot be cut on the same board as cooked meat. Vegetables must not be cut on the same board as raw poultry. It is a safety and health hazard, and utilizing color-coded boards will help you keep track of which food is cut on which board. It diminishes the chance of contaminating one meal with the harmful bacteria of another. So how do you remember what color chopping board to use? Whenever you are preparing raw fish or seafood, the color you would pick is blue. Blue is the color of the sea, and an excellent way to memorize that the blue sea and fish go together. For preparing raw meats, the board that you would use is colored red. The majority of meats used are red like beef, so it is easy to associate the color together. For cutting raw poultry, like chicken and turkey, you would utilize a red board. When the meat is cooked and needs cutting, yellow is the board to use. Working with and preparing vegetables and fruits should be done using a green board. Remember, green as freshness and the color of salad and fresh vegetables. Dairy produce, use a board that seems to be an obvious choice, white. It is the simplest one to keep in mind, as dairy products made from milk, and milk is white. Cross-contamination and personal hygiene. If you touch your face and hair, sneeze or cough before touching food, you could also cause cross-contamination. It is essential you ensure that you wash your hands frequently when handling food. Pests. Flies, cockroaches, mice and rats carry harmful bacteria, which they can convey to any place they walk over or land on. It is vitally important in the workplace that pest control is maintained when it comes to preventing cross-contamination. Raw food storage. One of the most frequent types of cross-contamination is when raw food comes into contact with cooked or ready-to-eat food. If this occurs, it's a good idea to consider that the cooked food has been contaminated and should be discarded. Raw food items should be covered and stored at a lower level than cooked foods to prevent contamination. Waste control. Rubbish and waste should be stored and sealed correctly to inhibit cross-contamination. It should always be kept away from other items in the kitchen, to guarantee it never comes into contact with food preparation. Regular cleansing and sanitizing of waste bins should also be carried out to limit the risk of pest infestation.